Here's the truth. Some people involve God too much in their love life. And some people don't involve God enough in their love life. Now, some of you are concerned because you're like, how can I involve God too much in my love life? But what I mean by that is some people use prayer as an excuse to not move in action. They'll be like, oh, I need to pray about it. Hey, you should consider that guy. Oh, you know what? I got to do this for the Lord or something. Like, you're just doing too much. But some people don't involve God enough. And it shows because they go from bad relationship to bad relationship to bad relationship. At some point, if you ask the Lord, he would have said, hey, let's chill out for a season.
A lot of guys subconsciously, like, they'll see and look at, like, who's around you. And if you're, like, well protected, if you have a father, a very good father in your life, or brothers and uncles, like, they're going to come a little bit different than if you're out here on your own, all alone, and, like, feeling like, I can just come at her any sideways and talk to her anyway. And, like, sometimes that's going to prevent certain guys from approaching you.
Some of y'all be like, ain't no way my sex life gonna be bad. When we were posting this video that we're about to show you on our sex life in the beginning not being great, and Pauline had some emotional issues that was preventing her specifically from enjoying certain aspects of sex, people were in the comments trying to like, I don't know what's wrong with her. When I get married, we going to war. And it's like, whoa, first of all, it's kind of crazy. Second of all, you don't know what's going to happen because you don't know what pain or trauma you haven't dealt with yet.
Yeah, it's like,
or you don't know what trauma your partner may have.
Right.
So just be humble. Not understanding what God is asking you to do is actually the safest place you can be. If we look back on our story, neither of us understood in the beginning why God had people telling us, hey, you should be interested in Tim or you should be interested in Pauline. And through prayer and time, we came to realize like, oh, like God knew what he was talking about. Like we actually are a good fit. So if you don't understand something God's asking you to do, that's okay. The Bible tells us don't lean on our own understanding. So if you are understanding too much of your love life, that may be the problem. Just something to think about. What's up, fam? Welcome back to our channel. My name is Tim. This is my beautiful wife, Pauline, and you're tuning into another episode of the W Podcast where you get wisdom in the world with the
Wheelers.
Hey, so we are so excited to have you all back this week. And it's so interesting. As we head into a new year, a lot of people are reflecting. Well, honestly, people say they're reflecting. I don't know how many people actually...
They know they should be.
I don't know how many people actually reflect. But now that the year is almost over, we thought it would be a great time to leave some unhealthy mindsets behind.
Yes,
some
Lord.
Irrelevant dating mindsets behind in this year and go into the new year with some clarity. So before we do that, we want to make sure that you unlearn anything that you did learn, whether it was this year, 10 years ago, when you were 5, whatever bad, unhealthy relationship advice you learned, this video is going to help you unlearn it and help you walk into 2026 prepared for freedom.
Yes, and that's why we took 3 of our most watched videos from 2025 and repackaged them into videos to help set you up for the best 2026 that you could have.
You know what's interesting, babe?
What?
We don't judge any other waiting season quite like we judge waiting on a partner, a spouse. Like, there's something about waiting to get in a relationship that we just talk really bad about ourselves or we feel really bad about ourselves. Only thing that I feel like is similar, maybe waiting for a baby. For those who are married and want to have a baby, that can be a lot. But I feel like we don't talk about waiting for a job or waiting for our dream car, our dream house quite the same as we talk about singleness.
This whole entire episode was a great big hug to those of you who are single. If that's you, we see you and we love you.
The same way you feel in other areas of your life where you're waiting for God to bring you that job, or you're waiting for God to get you a house, or you're waiting for God to heal your body, whatever it may be. I feel like we don't look as bad on those feelings in those scenarios as we do sometimes when it comes to being single and like, well, you should just get over it. You shouldn't worry about that. Like, no one tells somebody who's sick, like, oh, you should just like get over it. Like,
your healing will come.
Yeah.
Well, sometimes people do say depending on if you have like a chronic disease or just what your condition is. But yeah, there is a certain like passivity that can come with waiting for your spouse if you're in your... Especially if you're in your 30s, your later 30s, your 40s.
What do you mean by that passivity?
Like, dismissiveness. Maybe that's a better word. Yeah, like people kind of dismiss the anguish and the longing that you have for marriage, especially if you're like, hey, I really love God, and I know that God really loves marriage, and He made it, and it's something that I want to experience. I know that it's hard. I know that it's gonna test me and stretch me and all those things, but I still really want it and desire it, and I've done all the things. I'm walking in purity, and like today's episode is really for the Christian single who is faithful. You're faithful in your relationship with God. You're faithfully serving the church and building His kingdom. You're faithful on your job with your own purity, and you're just really frustrated. Like there's really people try to ask you like what's going on, and you're like, I don't know. If I knew why I was single and I could control and I could fix it and change it, I would, but I can't. Like I've tried all the things. And you're just feeling confused and unseen.
Yeah, and hopefully, like, this episode, if it does nothing else, at least my hope, is that emotionally, you are, like, allow it to be okay that you feel away. But then also, hopefully, you're able to figure out, like, okay, I don't have to feel like this every day. There can be days, there can be weeks, there can be months even, potentially, where I'm in a great space or a good space at least. And I say that because I was feeling sad, just to give a personal moment. Obviously, I'm not believing to not be single anymore, praise God. But I was feeling sad the other day because I've been waiting for God to move in my life for something else.
Yeah.
For a while, it feels like. And it's like I said, the feeling of waiting on God is not just something you experience when you're single. And I was feeling sad up to the point where we're recording this video. What I'm believing God to move and shift in my life still has not happened yet. And I don't know who's watching this if you're like me, but the way my brain works, it's harder for me to wait when I feel like the Lord has told me change is going to come.
Right. And it's like, when God.
And so, like, I feel like God has told me, like, the things I'm going through in my life, like, change is coming. And for me, that makes it harder to wait and not have feelings of, like, disappointment. Because for me, if God came to me and said, hey, you're going to not have what you want. If God came to you and said, hey, you're going to be single for the rest of your life. Some of you, not all of you, but some of you, that would be easier for you to handle. Because you can just like, all right, let me file this away in my memory. I'm not even going to desire to want it anymore. Like for me, that's how my brain works. If I know something's not going to happen, I can just, all right, I can move on. But when you have that feeling that God is still going to do something in that area of your life, that can certainly make it harder. And we're here to tell you, you're not crazy if you feel that way. You're not crazy if you feel lonely. You're not crazy even if in your head you know that God is enough, but at the same time you're like, I still want like a man though. Like I still want a woman if you're a man, because that's the misnomer too, is that women are the only people that struggle with being single.
Oh yeah, and
it's not true.
Somebody actually put a question in our question sticker on Instagram yesterday talking about that. Like, how do I like manage or like get rid of this super strong desire I have for a godly woman? And we're pretty much answering him, letting him know like it's not something that you're supposed to get rid of. It's something that you continually surrender and give to the Lord. And that can be really, really hard. And like, Paul talks about that in the Bible, like the thorn in his side that like never went away. And like, we all have things like that. And like, obviously it stinks when you're married because that is such a big deal. And it does alter every single part of your life. And it's something that's so visual. And sometimes in our culture, people can kind of equate like singleness to like being a leper. Like, what's wrong with you? Like, why aren't you married? Like, you're 37 years old, you don't have any kids, you love God, what's wrong with you? Are you secretly GAY? Like, a lot of people deal with stuff and it's like, oh my gosh, like this is like really going in a direction that it's not supposed to go. And it reminds me of like what the Bible talks about, being a prisoner of hope, where it's like, wow, God, like I decided to follow you. I've been doing it. I don't care if people think I'm, whatever people think about me, but like between you and I know what's going on, what I'm doing, what I'm not doing, what I've given up, what I've sacrificed, what I've surrendered, what I have given to you, but I give to you all the time. And I feel like, you're withholding things from me. And even though I know that your word says that you're not, but it feels like you are, and you kind of just dealing with that and feeling like you're imprisoned. It's like, I'm to hold on to God and to trust God means that I can't move. I can't just give up and go on Hinge and find whoever I wanted just to say I'm not, single anymore. Like, this, I feel trapped here. Like, it feels like, what do I do? Like, I'm a prisoner of hope.
Yeah. So, like I said, I was feeling sad the other day. And one of the things, and I was just talking to God about it. And that's the thing. If you feel sad, like, please talk to the Lord about it. The Bible says, and I'm going to get to that. There's a verse that I want to share about that, what the Bible says. Because a lot of times we feel like we can't talk to God about it because maybe he doesn't talk back audibly like we would want sometimes, like when you're talking to a friend. And that's real. But let me read this because this verse really encouraged me. Then I have two other verses I'll share. But this verse helped me a little bit. And it says, hope deferred makes the heart sick. A lot of you have heard that part. But the same verse also says, but a dream fulfilled is a tree of life. And I don't know about you, but for me, that was really encouraging because I was like, yeah, that makes sense. My heart is sick because I've been hoping and waiting for this for a long time and it hasn't come to pass. But the end of that verse, I never realized that was attached to the hope deferred makes the heart sick part, which is a dream fulfilled is a tree of life. So for me, it just hit me like, God, as sad as I feel right now about this situation, when you shift this season,
that's it.
I can feel just as happy and fulfilled as if I never longed for this in the first part.
Amen.
Like there's a whole new
restoration
life that is coming from you shifting this season. And I don't know who that resonates with. But for some of you, you're like, man, I'm just in this forever. And like you may have examples in your life where like you thought God was taking forever to do something. And then when he did it, like you've kind of forgotten a little bit about how painful it was before he shifted the season. Like God just has a way of being able to advance things so well that when he does, we're like, well, I never really missed out on anything. Like, I'm so happy with what God did.
It was worth it in the end. Yeah, like God is absolutely a redeemer. And if you're somebody who's sitting here thinking like, is God's way even worth it anymore? Like, this is what it leaves me. It leaves me being, alone. And we've seen some people in some of the comments on Instagram, people talking about that, like, oh, this is why you need to test drive stuff. And this is why you need to do X, Y, and Z, step out of God. This is why you need to share a room on vacation. This is why all these different things. And you have thought about it. Like, if you're watching this, you're in that category, you're like, yeah, I've thought about it before because you're human. Not saying that you've ever done anything to cross the line, but we're here to let you know, like, purity still matters. Like, God oftentimes is silent. Well, that's one thing that I've been thinking about. Oftentimes he's silent when we're being tested. So sometimes, and it's not because like he's testing you like he thinks he wants you to fail. It's because he trusts you, because he's like, hey, you know what to do. Now it's your time to do it. I'm not going to do it for you because you know how to do it. And I've trained you, I've prepared you, I've entrusted you up until this point. And you can feel invisible sometimes as a Christian, where it's like, wow, I'm doing everything right and I'm still being passed over. I'm still being looked over. I have friends or people I know that aren't doing it right. And I just went to their wedding and feeling like, well, what the heck is the point of me being pure if it's going to leave me here alone? But it's just really important to think about, that the wedding day is not the finish line, that it's not your day to prove to anybody that you made it, or that, like you're not a spinster or whatever the case is. And some struggles that, you might be feeling right now is that, like, you feel lonely, even though God is enough. God is content, but it's like God is not your husband. God is your Lord. Jesus is your Savior. He's not, laying next to you physically in the bed. Like, can God comfort you? Absolutely. And does he? Absolutely. But it's not the same as a physical husband or wife. And you're honestly tired of being content. Like, I'm not gonna sit here and pretend that I don't want to be married because I do. Like, let's be real, because I know Christians have a bad habit of a reputation, I should say, of like being fake and like, oh, blessed by the best, and how are you, blessed and highly favored. It's like, but how are you really? And granted, you're not trying to talk about your business all the time, and I get that at church, when you what do church culture, church kind of relationships are like, but you may also be a little bit afraid and feeling like you missed it. Like, oh, I had a relationship, it was okay, but I wasn't convinced that it was God's best, so I let it go. And then you're kind of having like breakup remorse, if you will, and like, maybe some weeks or months after you made that decision, and it's like, man, Like, did I just miss out on my chance? And it can feel that way, or that you've been told maybe you're too picky, or maybe you're too old, and that that ship has sailed, and you're being too spiritual about this decision, or whatever the case is, and being, like we said, like in a way feeling invisible and just feeling like
absolutely
I'm being passed over.
So I want to read this comment because this video was inspired by a thread that we put on our Instagram page that like had over 80,000 views. Like people were watching it, sharing it, or reading it and sharing it. And I thought that this comment summed up a lot of the comments that were coming on that post. And hopefully it resonates with you, from Call Me Locked. So shout out to you for commenting. But they said, finally, in response to this post, finally a place to breathe and feel what I need. I rarely get to talk about what I feel being a single Christian because I'm always told, well, you're still young, you got time, or God is enough, like we've been saying.
Yeah.
You don't need a man to feel whole, girl. I mean, God is enough. He's more than enough. But I really want to experience having my person, our family that we create. I really am trying to do it the right way, but sometimes it's hard.
Yeah.
And if you're watching this, we see you. Mm-hmm. We know you are not alone in feeling that way. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm sure there's a lot of other people. And if you feel that way and you feel brave enough and bold enough to put in the comments and allow, like, we want this to be a community. Like, let other people come on and say, hey, like, you're not alone, girl, or you're not alone, man. Like, I feel you. Mm-hmm. So definitely put that in the comments, and we would love to even pray for anybody who comments for sure. But that's just something that I thought was powerful because it's just the acknowledgement. Like, who would ever thought that like just that simple post would make somebody like be able to breathe?
And I know a lot of times, in the Christian church, one of the reasons why people do not like being single and being saved is because they feel as though their church does not cater to them, that there isn't anything for them. Like, yes, there's singles ministries sometimes, but they're not fulfilling enough, and it's all about kind of focusing on like getting you out of singleness instead of like how to enjoy it and how to like maximize your time. And like there's just so much focus on your status, where it's like, this thing you're supposed to move through, which dating is a phase you move through. Singleness isn't necessarily a phase that you move through, because it's just a lot of times people are single the majority of their life more than married. But I think it's really important to think about like, okay, this is where I am, and like being honest, just like that comment you shared. The beauty in that is like when we are honest, like God wants that. Like He wants our honesty. He wants our fears. He wants our struggles. And there's a beautiful exchange between us and Him. But we can't get that. We can't receive the beauty for ashes if we're not willing to bring Him our ashes. So the first thing, of course, that we love about this topic and this conversation is like, really what we want to encourage you to do is to bring that to the Lord and like have those conversations. Like, even if you feel like your church or your friend group or your family is not a safe place for you to be single, where you feel like everyone's just constantly trying to get you not single anymore or like, make you feel weird about it. It's like, the Lord is not rushing you out of your singleness, and He's not like, what's wrong with you? Why are you still single? And it's okay to bring it to Him, say, hey, God, I feel this way about it. And He'll speak to you on it. And I know some things that we shared in a follow-up post that encouraged a lot of people was some things that the Lord might say in response to these feelings that you have. And if you're feeling like, okay, God, did I miss it? I'm wondering that. I'm afraid of that like the ship has sailed for me and I have no opportunities. And the Lord might say something like, delay is not denial. Like, feeling like you are one of the last of your friends doesn't mean it's never going to happen. And that's something that I struggle with a lot, not specifically in the marriage category, but feeling like kind of rushing, like, oh my gosh, I have to figure this out now, because if I don't, what if another opportunity doesn't come? And it's like, God doesn't withhold anything from us. And if something feels good, but it's not the right timing for whatever reason, and for you, if it's a relationship that you used to be in or someone you used to date, it's like, God is not... doesn't mean he won't bring it in the future, and like trusting that. And it's hard to trust that because we don't know what the future has.
Yeah, here's why it's so important that you process this with God, but also not even just with God, but with friends or people that you trust. Because if you don't process your feelings, you can subconsciously begin to go down paths you don't want to. What we mean by that is you could end up dating from a place of desperation because you haven't processed, I feel this way, and then allow the Lord in your community to say, hey, that's okay, you feel that way. Stay focused, stay locked in on the path of walking upright. Because then you can start dating from desperation and not discernment, and then you end up getting hurt because you're dating people who maybe they're not emotionally healed, or maybe they're not as spiritually mature as they need to be, and then you put yourself in bad situations when you haven't processed exactly how you feel. Something else that can happen is you begin to fake whatever peace that you may have or think you have around other people, instead of seeking God's peace to help you guide your decision making. And then you also can lower your standards a lot of times, and you can compromise, you can check out emotionally. And what that does, it will attract confusion, and then you won't really get the clarity you want as far as finding the godly spouse that you know is marriage material. Because we all have seen somebody or been the person who's dated somebody who we know they're not marriage material, but they're cute, or they're funny, or they keep our phone from not being dry, but it's ultimately just wasting our time.
Yeah, and you don't want to operate in that way. And it can be really hard to be the one who's like, I'm the last one of my friends who's single, and like there must be something wrong with me, and like kind of like that group, not group think, but like that just kind of peer pressure in a way of like I'm the only one, or I'm one of the last ones, or I don't want to be the last one, and like my chances are running out, like last one picked for the kickball team type of thing. But like we have to remember too, like you're set apart. Like just because everybody else got married in their 20s or in their 30s or right after college, whatever the case is, like that doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with you. Like God has a specific purpose and plan for your life, and like that may mean you starting a family a little bit later than what you had planned, and it doesn't mean that you won't have the same kingdom impact that your heart desires. Like you can, like God, and this is like, we never want to forget this, and this isn't even an episode about this, but like Jesus was in a blended family. Like Jesus had a stepdad. Like Joseph was not his biological father, but still he grew up in a family, had, you know, brothers and sisters and all that stuff. And like it's a lot of times God takes us to non-traditional path, and because that's something that stands out from culture. And sometimes, y'all, they gotta stand out from Christian culture too. Like Jesus is not really about all of the Christian culture and like church culture things that we're trying to like abide by or aim for sometimes subconsciously. And like this is for me as well. And like, yeah, we have to do things that are set apart. Like a lot of times if God is calling you or leading you to a life that looks a lot different than even your friends, like your Christian friends, like that's okay. Like don't feel like there's anything wrong with you because your path is different than theirs.
And one of the things that can happen when your path is different from others, or even from what you just wish you had yourself, because maybe all your friends single too, and you're like, I don't care, like I don't want to be single.
Right.
But when you trust the process and walk it out with God, one of the biggest benefits that you'll have is that you'll be clearer on who aligns with the values and vision and the emotional capacity that you have. And at the same time, the Lord has given you space to work on those things in your own heart. Because nothing is worse than when people get married and they're not actually ready from an emotional standpoint, spiritual standpoint.
Willing, yeah.
They have no values, they have no vision. And then there's no surprise when they end up getting a divorce because the weight of marriage crushed them because they didn't have the character to sustain it.
Jesus.
But when you go through this season with trust and knowing that the Lord is with you, even though it feels hard, even though it feels painful, knowing that on the other side of this, when you do step into the married season, if you do it right and do it with the Lord and with community, you can actually be so much better than people who got married before you, or you got married when you wanted, because you're like, I waited, but now I'm ready to actually sustain what I've been waiting for.
Yeah. That's what people talk about that, like when it comes to fame all the time, for like celebrities and things like that, where like you can be crushed under the weight of all that influence if your character can't sustain it. And like we were literally talking about this the other day of like, Lord, don't bring us anywhere our character cannot handle it. Because a lot of times people are in places where it's like, yeah, you've worked hard for it and your skill set fits and you're performing well, but at the end of the day, like character is everything. Like and our character, of course, comes from the Lord. And a lot of times character is built through hard times like this, and this is your, if this is hard for you, which obviously it is, or you wouldn't be watching this video, it's okay to be crushed, and we're constantly being formed and pruned and cut by the Lord to grow and bear more fruit. So you have to think about it like that, where if this is a cutting for you, that's not bad, that's good, this can turn into something that's very fruitful for you.
Yeah, so a couple things you could do if you're sitting here right now in this season of being single but not wanting to be. First thing is be honest with God. Actually journal. I don't know if you journal, but that can be really helpful to write down, literally write down how you feel. When I'm going back to earlier in the podcast when I said I was feeling sad, the Lord showed me that verse after I wrote down, Lord, I feel sad. Write down how you feel. Write down your fears and your desires. He can handle them. And then you may already be involved in your community, which is great, but involve God in your dating too. And what we mean by that is not just journaling, but also asking God on the pace. Have an honest, and you may not want to do this, right? A lot of times we don't want to ask God the real stuff, but asking God, hey, do I need to take a break right now from dating? Mm-hmm. Do I need to take a 3-month break and just focus on whatever you want me to focus on? And we talked about that the other day. We were having a conversation how you were telling me a lot of times when women are struggling to get pregnant, a healthy thing to do is actually to stop trying to have kids for a while. Yeah. Because the toll of all the hurt and every month missed expectations can be painful. So that may be something that would be helpful for you. Yeah. If maybe instead of you're always looking, you go into every singles event trying to find somebody, maybe just take a chill and next couple months, I'm just going to focus on serving in my church or focus on building a business or whatever God's asked you to do. And that actually might be really helpful for you.
Yeah, we actually have, that's something else we're going to talk about later. Let us know in the comments if you want to know more about when to date and when to not, and the timing of dating and when to stop dating a specific person and when to take a pause in general to protect your heart. Because at the end of the day, your heart is the most important thing. That's what God cares about. Above all else, more than your marital status, he cares about your heart. And sometimes we're putting just constantly bashing ourselves, and God is I do not care, not that he doesn't care, but he doesn't care as much as we think he does about our marital status. Because at the end of the day, if you're married but you have a trash heart, that's not the answer. I think
another way I would say that is I think God cares more about our heart and us being who he wants us to be than he cares about whatever our marital status is.
Isn't that what I said?
The way I took it, I just don't want somebody to take it and be God doesn't care that I'm single or married or whatever. Just making sure nobody
he cares about your heart more than your marital status.
So one thing you can do to ask the Lord is, how do I steward this season that I'm in a way that honors you, and allow him to answer on a couple verses that hopefully can help you through this time where you're trying to talk to God, because I think sometimes we also got to be humble.
Always.
We think we know what's best for our lives better than God knows. Mm-hmm. And that's just not true. Proverbs 3:5-6 says this: trust in the Lord with all your heart. Do not depend on your own understanding. Mm-hmm. I don't understand why I'm still single. You see how I look? Oh. You see the job I got?
Honestly.
Seek his will in all you do, and he will show you which path to take. Yeah. This is, again, when we're asking the Lord, what do you want me to focus on right now? He may tell you, I want you to get out there and date. Don't be surprised if God says that to some of you. Some of you may not be dating enough. I don't know, but the Lord does. Right. Don't be impressed with your own wisdom. Mm-hmm. Instead, fear the Lord and turn away from evil. So, again, don't feel bad if you're me being pure is driving guys away or driving women away.
That's a good thing.
Yeah, it is.
Praise God for the little people are not. Those are the same people who will be up at the Coldplay concert, hugged up with her. Exactly. But also, sorry, to add something that you were saying about not leaning on our own understanding, and this is for me, you guys, I'm speaking of this, that I'm in this with you, because so much we want to understand. We want to understand, God, why am I here? If I could understand why I'm here, then I could endure it a little bit longer. And God's you know, that's not how you work. I know you better than you know you. And God, a lot of times, he will tell you which path to take. Yes, take this job or that job, or, whatever the case is, don't date this person, date that person, and you don't understand why. And I think we have to really just one thing that has helped me so much is like surrendering the understanding of like, God, I don't know why you want me to do this. That was my journey, with becoming a stay-at-home mom. I was like, God, this doesn't make any sense. Like financially, practically none of it. Like, I don't understand why you'd want me to do this. Like, I am vehemently, is that the word? Vehemently.
Just move on.
Against this. Like, I cannot wrap my mind around this. I very much felt like Abraham sacrificing Isaac. Like, this does not make any sense. But at the end of the day, I was going to be obedient. And like so much that's where you guys are too, where it's like, God, why would you tell me to break up with this person? Like they're perfect on paper. I don't get it. But God sees your life 10, 15, 20, 30, 40 years from now. You don't. So even though it makes sense for who you are, it doesn't make sense for who you are today. God is trying to help you make decisions that will impact eternity, impact your kids 4 and 5 generations, down the line. So just if you're really struggling at that point of like surrendering your understanding when it comes to your obedience, like we just really have to let that go of like, I'm not supposed to understand. I am an ant. The Lord is so big and he sees everything and I'm not supposed to understand.
Yeah, and the Bible says it like this. You lead me right to the next verse. My thoughts, this is God speaking, are nothing like your thoughts, says the Lord. Close. And my ways are far beyond anything you could imagine. So stop trying to figure it out on your own.
Truly, it's not a math problem.
For just as the heavens are higher than the earth, so my ways are higher than your ways, and my thoughts higher than your thoughts. So again, going back to that, God's here, we down here, and even though we are smart and we have the mind of Christ and all of that stuff, at the end of the day, the Lord knows better than we know for ourselves, and we have to trust if the path that we're trying to go is not working out, we have to trust that it's because the Lord has a different path that's better for us because he made us. So we have to trust that and rest in that. And again, going back to what we started at the beginning of this video, you may be hearing this and be like, I don't like that.
That's okay.
We get it. A lot of things we don't like. So that's valid and that's fair. But at the end of the day, if you want to be a mature Christian, feel that and move forward in God's will.
Yeah.
Like, don't feel that and be like, well, I'm going to do my own thing now. That's when you start getting into situations that you never should have been in. So feel it, but don't let it lead you. Let the Lord lead you in his direction.
Yeah, you can definitely have temper tantrums with the Lord and still obey and have a good attitude kind of like outwardly, and you need your safe spaces. But yeah, it's just really important, and we hope that you guys know after listening to this that you're not forgotten. Like, that's our main heart, is that you're seen. Like, if you feel like, oh, there's no content out there, God does not speak on, being single, how to get out of, not just how to get out of the season, but like, what do I do when I'm here? You sit, you are there, and God is with you, and you're not forgotten. We see you, God sees you. You're not behind at all. Like, you are not a failure. You're not defined by your marital status. And everything that you're doing, everything that you're pouring into yourself and to others, the way that you're building the kingdom of God, it all counts. Like, it's not, your life does not start when you get married. It will continue. And you're only going to add on to what you've been working on and doing now. It's going to accelerate. But where you are now is really, really important.
All right, y'all. We hope you enjoyed that clip. I wanted to read a comment that we got on the actual YouTube video because I thought it summed up really well what our heart was behind the video and what we were hoping some people would take from it. And it's from CTANAW. I don't know how you actually say that, a bunch of letters, but respect. Thanks for commenting. It says, my goodness, thank you so much for this video because it's so on time for me. I'm blessed to know I'm not the only single feeling this way. And thank you for confirming that it's okay for me to feel this way without issue. Blessings to you and all your viewers. So the reason that was so powerful for us is because that was our heart with this episode, was that Christian singles would know that it's okay to have feelings of wanting a relationship. I feel like sometimes we get in this place where we're like, you should be happy to be single. And like, yes, like you should, but also there's real feelings of wanting to not be single if that's something you desire. And there's nothing necessarily wrong with that.
Right. Now,
there was another comment we got that was more of a question that I want to read and then give you opportunity to answer it. And it was from Regina Mutchison, 3282. I probably butchered your last name, sorry. But it says, so what if you have discernment but you keep meeting time wasters and emotionally unavailable men. And I know she asked about men, but honestly, you could touch on it from both sides. Like, what do you do when you keep meeting people who are wasting your time and they seem emotionally unavailable?
Yeah, that's good. And I love that you like affirmed yourself in saying that, yes, I know I have discernment, because everybody does have a measure of it, just like the Bible. I mean, discernment and wisdom are not the same thing, but I do believe they're like cousins and hold hands. And yeah, and like your discernment has probably helped you get out of a lot of these situations before they became even more of wasting your time, and even kind of put you down a road that you don't want to be on. So that's great. But what I would wonder and ask is, how much is your discernment? How much are you letting it lead? How much are you letting the Lord lead before you even open yourself up to being in any type of situationship or talking stage with certain men? And we're talking about what you've done in the past, because this is a chance for you to grow. Obviously, it's very easy when when you're single and you're dating and you're looking for somebody to be in a relationship with, to over criticize the other person. Do they have fault? Absolutely, because everybody does, but you can only control yourself, and you're the one who asks the question, not the guy. So we have to kind of sit back and ask ourselves, okay, what is it? I'm the common denominator here. If there's a pattern of me dealing with people who are emotionally unavailable, who are wasting my time, I'm obviously picking them wrong at the wrong point. So if your discernment has gotten you to the point where, like, hey, I can talk to somebody for a few weeks and then I realize, like, okay, this is not going where I want it to go, take a step back and say, well, how do I even cut this off even earlier? How do I not even get into a talking stage with somebody? And one way that you can do that is maybe asking yourself, where am I meeting these guys? Am I meeting them not just at church, but am I meeting them through trusted friends, through trusted community? Are they being recommended to me? Are there certain apps that are better than others? Kind of getting down to the nitty gritty in that way of like, what are your patterns and what avenues have been open in your life to allow these type of people to come in? We want to add more kind of guards and barriers and protections if what you had previously is not what you want or yielding the type of results that you want. The same way if you were looking for a job and you were like, hey, all these jobs that, I've been getting callbacks from, the pay is too low. I'm not going to go on Monster or Indeed anymore. I'm only going to stick to LinkedIn or Google Jobs because those jobs seem to be higher. I'm literally just making this up to give you guys an example. But that's something, a way to think about it is the location of where you're meeting these men.
Yeah. Something else to think about is presentation. So Pauline talked about where you meet men. You can think about that as location. The other things you want to think about is presentation and expectation. And what I mean by that, presentation is how are you presenting yourself to the world? A lot of women don't want to hear this, but it's true. How you dress, how you speak, how you respond to men, how you don't respond to men does play a factor in who is approaching you and who is not.
Yeah.
And I can only speak to that from the male side of whether I was an ungodly man or since I've been a Christian man, and the same for other Christian men that I know. When we were ungodly, there were certain things we were looking for, certain ways a woman dressed, certain ways a woman talked that we were looking for. Vice versa, since once I got saved, same thing for my single brothers still now who are saved and looking for a woman. There's certain things that they're looking for and not looking for in a way that a woman dresses and how she presents herself, how she pursues or doesn't pursue a relationship with them. All of that matters. So that's something you want to look and ask yourself, like, am I doing something that's too much? And maybe that's not a question that you can honestly ask yourself and answer well.
Yeah.
So maybe you can ask your friends. Maybe you can ask mentors or other people in your church.
Absolutely.
Or a community that can be like, yeah, sometimes you do a little too much or sometimes you don't do enough or whatever. So that's something you can ask yourself in your community. And the third thing, expectation, that's focusing on, are you overlooking the right people? Mm-hmm. Because a lot of times we can overlook somebody because maybe they don't have the style that we like, or they don't have the charisma, things
or
that
the job, or
may not necessarily matter. Because a lot of times we are attracted to people who dress a certain way or talk a certain way, but that may not be who's best for me. I'm not saying that's always the case.
Right.
But again, when things are not going well, you have to evaluate everything to see
Right,
what is the
exactly.
actual.
I mean, even getting into a lot of us women, our issue, we get stuck with like, oh, well, he's not a leader at my church, or he's not a leader at the same level that I am. And that stuff can be great, but, you know, a position is just a position, a role is just a role. It's more about how much does this person love the Lord, and how is that being reflected in their daily decision making. Not how many Bible verses do they have memorized, but how many are they living out and practicing and doing, and you know, actually being of action about. Because I think a lot of women get stuck there. Like, they look at their pastors and their pastor's marriage, and they don't necessarily want to be a pastor's wife, but they want to marry a pastor, someone who's of that same kind of like regard and nobility within the community. And like, that's all great, but a lot of times pastors, you know, everyone starts somewhere as well. And even to the presentation point, like, reevaluating your community, because a lot of guys subconsciously, like, they'll see and look at like who's around you, and if you're like well protected, and they're gonna, you know, just like if you have a very good father in your life, or brothers and uncles, like, they're gonna come a little bit different than if you're out here on your own, all alone, and like feeling like, oh, I can just come at her any sideways and talk to her anyway. And like, sometimes that's gonna prevent certain guys from approaching you. Because the other side of this too is like, sometimes if you're getting frustrated, like, all these guys who come up to me are unserious, they also have to ask yourself on the other side, well, am I okay maybe having a season of loneliness? Am I okay with having a dry phone for a while? Because if you want the Lord to protect you from foolishness, you have to be okay and going through a lot of times like a reset period and like a cleansing of your palate, if you will, and your expectations and your kind of mindset of like, what is the type of guy that I'm looking for? Because to even get to the point where there was any type of foolishness or people being emotionally unavailable, like, there was something about them that was attractive to you to begin with. So you kind of have to step back and say, hey, I'm willing to reset everything. You know, one bad apple kind of ruined the whole bunch for me. Like, one good characteristic, one bad characteristic, and a guy can ruin, you know, the entire relationship. So
Yeah.
overhaul it all.
So if you don't understand why you're still single, or why God may be asking you to break up with somebody or date somebody or do anything in your love life, just know that that's the safest place that you can be, which is faith. And what we mean by that is, a lot of times not understanding what God is asking you to do is actually the safest place you can be. If we look back on our story, neither of us understood in the beginning why God had people telling us, hey, you should be interested in Tim, or you should be interested in Pauline. And through prayer and time, we came to realize, like, oh, like, God knew what he was talking about. Like, we actually are a good fit. So if you don't understand something God's asking you to do, that's okay. The Bible tells us don't lean on our own understanding. So if you are understanding too much of your love life, that may be the problem. Just something to think about.
Some Christians' absolute worst fear is waiting until marriage to have sex, and then having an awful sex life once they're actually in their marriage.
That's real. Because to be honest, a lot of y'all cocky. I just want to say that. A lot of y'all cocky. Some of y'all be like, ain't no way my sex life going to be bad. When we were posting this video that we're about to show you on our sex life in the beginning not being great, and Pauline had some emotional issues that was preventing her specifically from enjoying certain aspects of sex, people were in the comments trying to, like, I don't know what's wrong with her. Maybe this is
not me in my house.
Yeah, when I get married, we going to war. And it's like, whoa, first of all, it's kind of crazy. Second of all, you don't know what's going to happen, because you don't know what pain or trauma you haven't dealt with yet.
Yeah, it's like,
or you don't know what trauma your partner may have. Right. So just be humble.
Sex is I think people kind of underestimate how complex it is. And like, we live in a culture that makes it very transactional, very simple, in and out, you know, do what you gotta do and leave. And it's so much later. It's obviously physical, it's emotional, it's spiritual. They're so layered.
Yeah. So today, praise God, we're very healthy, happy, and consistent in our sex life. But our goal here is to inspire you. Whether you're watching this and you haven't already been married and the sex could be better, or you're engaged, we want to prepare you. How do you step into this new season you're about to go into, where sex is now on the table? And if you're dating, or you don't even have nobody in sight, you just like, Lord, it don't look like nobody's here.
As a Pringle.
Our goal is to help you prepare for marriage, but also just wait well
Yeah.
when it comes to not having sex before marriage. Because some of y'all be out here in these streets and you know you shouldn't be. So we want to help you make sure that you realize that ain't best. So let's check this out. To be clear, we did not have sex when we were dating. But the way we were kissing, it felt like we was going to make some good love. I'm just saying.
And we should also just clarify, there was no, like, fornicating either. We never did. We never did, like, touching each other's stuff.
I think fornicating actually means having sex. But, yes, we didn't touch or do none of that.
Well,
there was no oral. It was literally
kissing,
just making out. It was literally just that. So, but it was like that. So, I just think that us having that experience and then stopping and then going into marriage ready to have sex finally, legally, spiritually, we, at least for me, like I said, I had this expectation that it was going to be great.
You're just going to pick up right where I left off.
Because I felt like I had experienced you in a level of freedom in that area that it didn't fully come to fruition early on in our marriage. And we've kind of hinted at that before in the past. And one thing I want to say, and this is why you got to be very careful what you listen to, what you watch before you get married, because I came in with unhealthy mindsets and perspectives of my own. Mm-hmm. Like there were things that when we got married that maybe I would say or maybe I would do that really were not godly, or even if they weren't godly, maybe it had nothing to do with was it godly or ungodly, but it just wasn't creating a safe environment for you. Like I didn't really care about creating, if I'm being honest, I don't think I consciously I don't care about Pauline, but I think subconsciously I didn't really care about creating a safe environment for you to thrive sexually, because I just wanted to get mine, or I just wanted to do this and experience this. And I think you have to be very careful as a man and even a woman, but you have to be very careful that you're not coming into marriage with a selfish sexual mindset and just trying to worry about getting mine and wanting to please yourself, because ultimately it's now supposed to be a mutually serving space in your marriage. And if I'm coming into it selfishly, how can I expect her to trust that I'm there to make her feel good and feel safe? And that is ultimately not going to help us have a great relationship. Is that something that you would say you sensed, like that I was like being selfish, or like did you feel safe in our sex life?
I definitely didn't feel unsafe, like that you were going to hurt me, or
and I wasn't all
take
bad.
Advantage of me.
I had some moments, but it wasn't great.
But I think we had some pretty good conversations leading up. We didn't go into marriage with any surprises, so we knew each other's past and all that stuff, and muscle memory is definitely a thing where even if you haven't been doing it for years and years and years, your body is like, hello, like something's been awakened within me, and if you hear someone's past, and I'd obviously know the details of things that you did and all of that, but you had told me your heart posture for when you were having sex in high school and in early college of this is you told me that you literally only wanted a girlfriend because you wanted to have sex, and it wasn't because you met this amazing girl and you just really wanted to be with her and treat her well.
Got me sounding crazy on the pod.
That's how you were. Am I wrong? Am I wrong? I think
I'm not mad for sharing this. I just I guess I did say that.
You've told me that before. And
I wanted love.
You grew to love her and whatever, all that stuff. And it wasn't. Maybe this was before you even met her or got with her.
Yeah,
you told me in general.
Yeah, this was young
in the locker room. This is what was talked about. People doing this, doing that.
Before,
and you were like, "Yeah, I want a girlfriend so I can have full access." Basically, have a side. Not a side, but have a girl on call. That's what you wanted. You wanted.
I didn't say it like that. I didn't say it like that. But yes, before I was ever dating somebody, that was the heart. Yeah.
But then you got a girlfriend, so.
Yeah, because I wanted to live it out. But anyway.
Right, but that's what I'm saying. So you sharing that with me and me understanding
that was BC though.
Right, I know, but it was still you. It was part of you, and knowing that was your story and how you were raised by your teammates, your friends,
Raised by your
whatever.
teammates
I don't
is
know.
crazy.
They were influenced. They influenced.
It definitely
you.
was a race to who could lose their virginity first.
Right. So that me knowing.
Well,
that,
what that got to do with you and the married night?
I was not shocked. Is what I'm saying.
Shocked about what?
Because I was not shocked about your approach, your disposition, whatever the word is, your attitude towards sex in the beginning of our marriage, the first couple of months. Because I knew you were excited, and you were, that's what you had come from.
And if you don't want to, that's fine. But because I feel like it's starting to get vague. What was my disposition? Like, somebody listening to this, like, we're in a court case.
Very
like,
aggressive. Very aggressive. You were very aggressive. We had conversations before of, like, because I told you when we were engaged, like, oh, I feel pressure, like, to have sex on our wedding night after having a long wedding and all these things. And you had said, like, oh, like, at first you were a little bit nervous.
No pressure.
At first you were a little bit nervous. You're
I'll
like,
go to sleep right now, girl.
No, first you were nervous, like, oh, like, come on. No, you didn't say come on.
Okay, come on, man. Come on.
You didn't say come on, but I can't remember exactly what you said, but it was I could tell you were like, it wasn't as bad as when I told you I didn't want to kiss, but it was, like, close to that, like, okay, like, if that's what you need, like, that's fine. But then eventually you came back around before our wedding night, like, probably a couple weeks before our actual wedding, and you were like, yeah, we have the rest of our lives. I don't want to pressure you. Like, we don't have to, like, it's okay. We don't have to do anything that night if that's not what you want to do.
Did that make you feel safe?
It did. I really, really appreciated that.
Take the pressure off, fellas, at wedding night.
Yeah, but then when we actually did, I was like, oh yeah, he's very excited and very, like.
So what would you say to a woman who is, getting ready to get married, who may encounter a man who is not trying to be rude or make his wife feel unsafe, but is very excited? Like, is there anything that you can share? Is it just you just gotta figure it out, work through the process?
So I think what helped me was, like, me telling you, like, basically saying the expectations very low of, like, and, like, letting you kind of wrap your head around that of, like, hey, I don't know if I'm gonna be ready. Let's just, like, kind of order food, get food that night, and, like, just, we have first night sleeping together, like, literally sleeping in the same bed together, like, that's special. I heard once a girl who was a couple years older than me in college, and she had got married before me, had said, like, yeah, just take a shower together, like, that's a very low pressure way to, get to know each other's bodies and stuff like that. And that was very good advice because, again, low pressure, but it's still intimate, obviously, and it's something new and fresh. And I think, like, most husbands would still be excited about that, because it's a step further than where you were, before.
Yeah, you just gotta keep yourself under control in that shower.
Oh my gosh.
Nah, for real.
Nobody wants to be pounced on.
Yeah, and fellas, like, you're gonna be excited, especially if you did it God's way. Like, it just is what it is. But just relying on the Holy Spirit, like, Lord, I don't want to scare this woman.
Right. And we have the rest of our lives.
And there is no. Also, I don't want to put fear into this, because the enemy probably would love to use this to, like, oh, you should be timid on your wedding. Like, no, we're not saying that. And, like, every
for a
woman,
woman or a guy?
No, for a guy, for both. Like, a guy being like, oh, I don't want to scare her, so I'm not gonna, like, be myself. Or a woman be like, oh, I don't want this man to attack me. And, like, y'all may not be us, right? And that's totally fine. Like, maybe the roles will be reversed, right? Maybe the woman will be ready to go, and the guy's more like, let's ease into this for whatever reason. So, just listen and allow the Lord to lead you in your own life. But I think we're just saying the heart posture shouldn't be like, oh, I just want to pounce just to pounce. It should be, oh, I want to be with my wife, but I want her to want to be in it just as comfortably as well.
But I think that's good. And just the main thing is just taking it one step at a time. So, like, if you both are, like, really excited about it, you have a license now. After your wedding is over and after your marriage license is signed, you literally have a license to have sex. Now, when you get your license, when you drive, I mean, does that mean you're driving cross country the first day? No. Sometimes, I mean, you had driving tests all that time, so it's probably not the best analogy, and you had, experiences versus driving and your driving hours and all that stuff. But I think it's like an opportunity of like, hey, we get to finally do this together, and I want it to go for a long time. Like, I want us to be together. And like one thing that helped me was thinking like, okay, we have our wedding night. We stayed in a hotel after our wedding. Then the next day we left for the honeymoon. We had 5 days in the honeymoon. And then after the honeymoon, we get to go back to our home together, our first apartment together. And like, this is not a one and done. It's not a one night stand. Like, we're literally going to be together every day for the rest of our lives. Like, this is no rush.
And ask the Lord to renew your mind. Because some of y'all was out here in these streets. And you're used to the one and done.
Yeah,
you're used to like,
having to quicken
I'm
things.
here because I'm here to get mine. And like, you don't want that mindset. That it's not going to help you to have the best married sex when you are married, because it's supposed to be unity. Everything in marriage is supposed to be unity and togetherness. So let's move this on. So obviously the wedding night, you feel like I scared you a little bit.
I wasn't scared, like, oh my gosh, I need to call somebody, but right. I was more like...
I know, it was just a lot.
My eyes were open. I was, like, kind of just observing and watching and seeing and, like, okay, this is, like... Because what I was about to say is this is a new area of trust that your relationship is building. Because if you did honor God with your bodies while you were dating, pretty much every area of your relationship up to this point has been explored, except sex. You guys have been over each other's places, most likely. You've talked about finances. Like, nothing else was really a surprise to you besides each other's bodies and experiencing each other's bodies in this way. So this is the only area that you're starting off with trust on level 0. Like, and if you have prior experiences outside of your partner, then you're coming in even with a negative mindset, which is what we're talking about. You're coming off like, hey, I have some work to do before I can be a clean slate mentally. Obviously, you're washed white as snow. You're clean in the eyes of the Lord spiritually. So you really do need to start off slow. Just think about your guys' first date. Like, you didn't come in hot your first day talking about, girl, I want to marry you and, I want to have your babies. Like, you have to really, you start off slow. Hi, what's your name? Like, you build the trust. And obviously, like, you're vibing off of each other. It just takes a lot of learning. Like, you guys are literally fish out of water.
Yeah. So I think you said something good about, like, building that trust. So, fellas, just be mindful of your words when you're in the moment. Not saying certain things that maybe you heard on songs or other places, or that you just said in your own life. Like, we don't need anybody to beat anything up. Like, let's just But
yeah, I mean, that's really, really real. And like, you've shared on the podcast before about our first date and how you had a mentor that helped you plan our first date. Like, hey, make sure you get flowers, make sure you do this, make sure you do that, get her a gift. Like, a lot of guys and girls don't have that kind of guidance and vision when it comes to sex, of like, what is good sexual etiquette as a married person. Okay, I'm married now. You guys told me to wait till I'm married. What do I do? Like, we're not talking about like physical, technique and skills, but more about like, hey, make sure the room is clean. Like, it would be nice if you got her a gift or something like that. I know you had in our wedding night room, you had people bring like cupcakes and food and Martinelli's and stuff like that, just to like set the mood and romanticize. And like, these things probably aren't shocking to you guys because you have watched movies and stuff before where people set the scene, and like, you could take that, but like, this is where it's really helpful to have those like mentors or older sisters, older brothers, Titus 2 type relationships, because if you just walk in and then rip your pants off, like, that's not gonna go well.
And I think it's really good to say here, let's stop here, when you are, the night you get married, hopefully you had some really good conversations with your partner and you know them, so you should know going into it, hey, this person may be a little more hesitant about this experience. Or you should know, hey, they've been telling me, get your popcorn ready. And both of y'all agree. So then, like, forget everything we saying and just do you. But our whole goal here is hopefully you recognize that you two should be on the same page about where each other is coming in. If one person is coming at a 10, another person is coming at a 5, how do we meet? If one person is coming at a 6 and one person is coming at a 2, how do we meet? If y'all both at a 10, go ahead and do what you do. But just make sure that you can walk in agreement. Now, let's move. So, we were married. What's so funny?
They're not going on the tasty this to go.
So, we get married, honeymoon, things are going okay. Like, we definitely we're doing it. We're having a great time in marriage, just being able to do it, have sex. And I'm starting to get all Christian. Do it.
It's not a bad
Can't say it. Oh, starting to have sex. So I think that over time, you come back from the honeymoon, you start getting into real life, bills, all that stuff. Then you start to settle in and be like, all right, like this. And again, everybody may not have this experience. It may just always be great, and that's awesome. But for some people, and for us, it was, all right, like there's times where like this may be great, but then there's a lot of times where this is just not hitting like I thought it was. And again, for me, when me and Pauline were kissing those first 5-6 months of our dating relationship, I saw a side of her that I was expecting to return when we got married. It's just as far as being excited and aggressive about sexual situations, and I wasn't fully seeing that. And I think that's where, on my end, we started having a little bit of the challenges. And I don't know if you want to jump into the conversation here or if you want to share some other stuff first. So yeah, we ended up having a conversation one night, just pillow talk. I don't think it was
it was like 2 or 3 years in, isn't it?
Yeah, it was a while into our marriage, and it definitely wasn't a planned conversation, but I just had an honest conversation, and I had to ask Pauline, like, do you actually care if our sex life gets better? I said something like that.
Yeah, like, it seems like you don't. You asked me, do you care about this? It seems like you don't care. Do you want it to get better?
Because, again, I'm not trying to paint the picture that we never had great moments. We definitely had some good moments, but it was not consistent. And it wasn't making sense to me on why it wasn't consistent. Because I'm like, if we can do it great one time, why can't it be great every time? Mm-hmm. And my question to her was, and again, it wasn't, you weren't the only person that had their issues, but I was like, are you willing to figure out what the missing link is? Like, is that important to you? Was really, I guess, what my heart was. And I feel like that question really stuck with you more than I ever thought it would.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And I, this is coming. Okay. Next week, I'm going to go, like, kind of have my own, like, girl talk video about this on my channel. So if you want to talk about or, like, tune into that, make sure you do. But I think that conversation was, yeah, it really hit me hard because we had a lot of little conversations up to that point. So I don't want to make it sound like Tim just one day exploded and I, like,
come on, girl! Yeah,
like, sideswiped me. I wasn't shocked. But it wasn't, when he brought that up. It was just more of, like, it was obviously a little bit more intense than normal when, like, me realizing how frustrated he was. Because for, up to 3 years until that point, he's very gracious, very, like, okay, I understand this is going to take time. And, it was, your heart was more of, like, what can I do? Like, is this something that what can I do to make you more comfortable? And we had different conversations about trying different things and, like, setting the mood, all these different things. And, like, sometimes that would work, and then you would tell me, like, we're talking about candles and this and that and music and kind of the things that you guys would assume. And, you kind of told me, like, yeah, like, I'm happy to do those things, but, like, it can't happen every single time if we're going to be, like, having sex on a consistent basis. Like, I'm just being honest with you. Like, it's just not going to happen every single time. And even, I'm pretty sure you told me, like, there are times where that has happened and it still is not, like, working, essentially.
And that's the thing that's tough, is when you don't get that positive reinforcement. It's like your partner, and this could be outside of sex, it could be any area, like your partner tells you, hey, if you do this, I'll have this result, and then you don't get that. It's like, why did I waste my time?
Right.
And that's something you got to work out in your marriage.
And I know you're a type of person, I'm sure there's other guys and girls who are listening who are like, you don't like wasting your time. So I'm fine to do certain things if it's going to work, but I'm not going to do this extra stuff if it's not helping you and if it's not with actually fixing the problem. Like, let's actually fix the problem. So, yeah, I mean, through a series of events that, I kind of, like, again, dove into more on my own video about, like, things that kind of got me to a better place. But that conversation really hit me because I realized how frustrating it was for you. And like I realized, I think to that point I kind of just thought it was going to get better on its own, and I realized like, okay, I can't be passive about this anymore. Like I need to actively work towards this. And like obviously being a relationship person and being an intentional relationship person and believing and being intentional about every aspect of a relationship, knowing how important sex is, knowing that sex is basically like, you know, a microcosm of your entire marriage, and if your sex life is not good on a consistent basis, like something else is going on. And it kind of like hit me in that moment, like, okay, like it's not that the sex was the problem, it's the fact that I was like numbing myself, and that I was like withdrawing, and that if anything had come across to you that like I didn't care, that was what my issue was. It wasn't that we were having, you know, frustration or like some difficulty. It was more of just like, he thinks that I don't care. Like that's not good. I don't ever want him to feel alone or feel like there's a major area of our marriage that, you know, I don't care about. Like that's not good.
Right. So, and I know you're going to share more on your own channel, which I think is great, but for the people here, what was there? Did you go to counseling?
Yes.
Did you pray? Like,
Yes.
What helped you get over? Would you call it a mental block, or what was it?
Yeah, I definitely think I had a block. So yes, counseling helped a lot, and I saw a counselor for like unrelated reason, and then this like our sex life had kind of come up, and she had said some things that helped me realize like, okay, this is not a bad thing. What you're feeling, what you're experiencing, this is good. Like, this is what it's supposed to feel like. This is not something that you should be like kind of pushing out, because I was very tense. I was very like locked up, very like physically resistant when we were together. And I think that it was a lot of it, you know, if we're just being honest, there was pain involved, because like this was new for me. And it was something that I think that I didn't really know how to like get past. But I think a lot of
get past what?
The pain, and like
pain of physically?
Yes.
Okay.
And I think a lot of it was mental. So like obviously if somebody like punches you in the arm and you tense up, like bracing yourself for the punch, that's gonna feel different than if you're relaxed and somebody comes up and punches you in the arm. So like, because there's a muscle, you know, vaginas are muscles, so like you learn how to relax that. And obviously I've learned this too, having 2 children now and having 1 C-section, 1 vaginal birth, and learning the difference between those 2 as well, and pushing a baby out unmedicated, mind you. So like just learning like your body, and like that's a whole other separate, you know, kind of conversation of like women knowing their bodies, knowing how they work, and all of that, and that not being talked about enough, like in church culture, black culture, whatever. I'm like feeling like, oh, if you teach people what things are, they're gonna know how to use it, and like, you know, whatever. So that was a big part of it too. But yes, counseling, with that conversation that I have with my counselor was huge, of her just.
So what was there something that outside of like, yes, you should feel these feelings? Was she saying that you should feel the feelings of not being happy, that your sex life isn't great? Well, that's the part I was a little confused about. You were saying.
So I'm trying to not share everything that she shared, but
sorry if I'm getting too.
No, it's okay. But yeah, it was more of like being present in the moment and knowing that it's okay to relax and like kind of. Why are you laughing?
Can you share my favorite word that she introduced, or because maybe that'll help somebody?
Go ahead. You know, say it so bad.
Do I? You know, married people be watching this sometimes, which we appreciate you. So this may actually help somebody who can apply this right now.
Okay.
Why she didn't tell me?
You know, you're the one who wants to hear something.
We did have the same therapist, and I'm sad. She retired a couple years ago. We miss you, girl.
I don't think she's watching.
I know. Hey.
She's on an island somewhere.
Woo! Alright, so the whole phrase that she introduced to you.
Did you write it down?
No, I didn't write it down. That was helpful. I just feel like it was helpful because having language in your marriage can help you talk, safe language, can help you talk about things that, for whatever reason, may be uncomfortable. So it doesn't even have to be about sex. It could be about any area of your life. If you can find a safe word that you guys can use to talk about it, that can help. But I know for you, she told you that you should. Why are you laughing?
Because I'm looking at you trying not to laugh.
She said that you should just experience your husband's manhood. Is that the word she used?
Which word?
Manhood.
Why am I laughing?
Yeah, what grade are we in?
You guys, this is so vulnerable. Oh my gosh. I hope this helps somebody. Lord, be glorified.
Why is manhood so like?
I know,
like
it's really not.
Right, you're like I said something crazy. All right, try to move on. So anyway, that saying really helped us.
Oh, okay.
Well, just me being able to say stuff and like, you know, that's something safe that your therapist gave you to be able to communicate things. So all that to say, I think, long story short, her telling you to enjoy it was really all that you needed. Was it that permission?
Yeah, maybe it's because like I looked at her very much as an authority. She was much older than me, like a grandma, you know, and she was somebody that I had built trust with over years. And like I guess I've never had like an in-depth, and she's a Christian, like conversation about sex with somebody that I respected and that was older and that obviously had been married before. So maybe that is what I needed. I mean, I also went through kind of my own like transformation with my confidence during this time. Over the years, I was feeling really terrible about my body and just about myself after our oldest son's birth, because that birth was very traumatic for me. And just, yeah, again, obviously birth is very, very strongly connected to your body as a woman. And I remember like the first time we had sex after our oldest son's birth, like I cried. I was, and it wasn't because like anything happened between us. I just was in my head so much thinking about like what should have happened, and like kind of feel like my body had failed me, and just doing something, you know, sexual again around this, the same organ that's supposed to birth my son, you know, is now kind of being activated again. And that was very emotional for me. Yeah.
And as the partner who may not be having any struggles mentally, I think it's really important when you see your spouse going through this to be there for them and be patient for them and not rush them and be like, I can't believe you're still dealing with this. Like, yeah, bruh, like this is what we should be doing. And whenever you do that, you're just stealing trust, taking away trust, instead of building trust. When you're there and you're patient, you know, the Bible talks about one of the fruits of the Spirit is long suffering. Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying that this has to be an area that you have to long suffer in, but if it is, do it well. Like if it's an area where you have to show patience and show grace to your partner, it's worth it, because eventually they can get better and get to the place where they can find freedom the same way that we were able to. And I just think it's really important to hear that piece of like, yo, don't make it worse. Yeah. Like whatever issues you think they have, you can certainly make them worse. Yeah. Or you can choose to make them better. And again, that's in any area of marriage. You can either amplify the situation and make it worse, or you can amplify it and make it better. And I think being patient with them, loving on them, saying, hey, I'm here for you. What can I do to serve you? Like all of those things help. Right. And just being patient and praying for them, even like silently, and saying like, you know, not putting pressure on, because like, and this is why it's important that you do wait while you are dating, and take your time when you're newlyweds, because this is going to be something that you guys are dealing with for the rest of your lives, as far as like sex being good, sex being hard, you know, having times of life where you can't have sex or it's not that good or whatever the case is. Like you really have to train your body, kill your flesh, because if you are just solely focused on wetting your whistle, getting what you need, whatever it is, you know, that's when people start, like, that can drive people to adultery, which is obviously detrimental if your only focus is like being selfish and getting what you need. But if you're patient with your spouse, like you said, that builds trust, and that'll make the sex even better when it is time, and realizing like, you know, you're responsible for taking care of this person, and it's just such an opportunity to love on them and to be patient. Yeah. So long story short, that conversation with Pauline's therapist really started opening things up for us. I'm not going to say the next time we were able to be with each other that it was great at that point, but eventually the Lord kept softening hearts, kept renewing minds, and we got to a place where we were starting to consistently be able to have sex in a way that was enjoyable for both of us, I would say. Mm-hmm. And now it's pretty much very consistent in that way. And our whole goal with this podcast was to encourage you. Whether you're married and you're watching this and your sex life is not where you want it to be, there is hope.
Yeah.
Keep praying, keep believing, keep doing the work to get freedom in your mind, in your heart. Ask the Lord to cleanse your thoughts of any past experiences that you may have that may be trying to come into your bedroom now and haunt you. And if you're not married yet and you're watching this, know that it's okay to have pleasure in sex. We're giving you permission now, before you even step into it, to know that the Lord wants you to experience pleasure in this area because, hey, He created it.
Right.
Like, this is not something that He doesn't know happens in a marriage. This is something He used in order to not only help procreate and reproduce in the earth, but so that we can have enjoyment too. Because think about it. God didn't have to make sex pleasurable. He didn't have to make sex necessary in order to make humans. Yeah, He could have done anything else that He wanted to do, but He chose to allow us to have this pleasurable experiences, which is such an amazing thing that our God would do. So ask the Lord to change your mind around what His views are when it comes to help you see what His views are. His mind isn't changing on that, but say, Lord, what are your views when it comes to sex? Help me see it the way you do. And when you do that, then you'll be able to step into it and enjoy, if you're a woman, your husband's manhood, and if you're a man, enjoy, you know what I mean? So
yeah, and even if you are somebody who's watching this, if you're very like nervous, maybe if you love God, but you've been having a hard time abstaining from sex because you just are not aware of any married couples that are Christian that have had or are having good sex.
It's possible.
Yeah.
Anything is possible.
Let this be a light for you and encouragement for you. And I think hopefully with us being as transparent and vulnerable as we have been, like, even if your sex life isn't great when you get married, which honestly it like shouldn't be the best. Like, you don't want your sex life to peak the first year of your marriage. You're supposed to be married for
we hope it keep getting better for us. As happy as we are, we hope it just keep getting better.
People talk about that, like, as you get older, like, you know each other better, like, you know each other's bodies better and all that stuff.
What? I'm just listening, girl. How much longer we got on this podcast?
Oh my god.
Got some things I need to do.
Oh Lord.
I'm just asking a question.
But yeah, if that's you and like you're always been curious about, like, oh, Christians always say wait, but what happens after you wait? What if I know people who waited and it was terrible? And like, you have to remember, sex is not a performance. Sex is not something, it's like, all right, we're at the wedding night, here, get on stage, like, do your thing. I waited, I paid a ticket, you know, my ticket being 2 years of dating you to get here, like, this needs to be great. Like, this is a journey. It is the beginning. You guys are infants. Like, your marriage is young, and it's not going to be, I mean, our marriage is young too. We're barely 7 years old. 7. Yeah, like, our marriage is, you have to think about your marriage and as a person. Like, if your marriage is 4 or 5 days old, you wouldn't expect a 4 or 5 day old baby to drive a car. Like, it's just
to
not
do anything.
Yeah, all they actually take from you. So just be super gracious to each other in this area, and it needs to be something that you're excited to explore and discover and serve and talk and fail and learn and grow and all that stuff.
All right, we hope you enjoyed that video. We need you to know the best thing you can do with your future spouse is be unified. Whether that's with sex or finances or any other area of your life, the sooner you get unified with your partner, the better off your relationship will be, and the sooner whatever issue you have will get resolved.
Hopefully you guys see that our story is proof that the moment that we became unified and had that hard conversation is what we needed to be unlocked and to get on the same page. And that quickly accelerated us to have the tools to communicate better about sex and to be on a road of satisfaction together.
Here's the truth. Some people involve God too much in their love life. And some people don't involve God enough in their love life. Now, some of you are concerned because you're like, how can I involve God too much in my love life? But what I mean by that is some people use prayer as an excuse to not move in action. They'll be like, oh, I need to pray about it. Hey, you should consider that guy. Oh, you know what? I got to do this for the Lord or something. Like, you're just doing too much. But some people don't involve God enough. And it shows because they go from bad relationship to bad relationship to bad relationship. At some point, if you ask the Lord, he would have said, hey, let's chill out for a season.
Right.
Let's not date right now.
Take a quick break. Because at the end of the day, godly dating works best when God is at the center of every single decision that you are making regarding your love life, and obviously your entire life, but especially we're talking about your dating process here. And we want to give you fresh perspective on what God's role can be and should be in your love life to help you take away any potential excuses or hang-ups, especially any fears or dormant lying, lies that you have from the way that you grew up or what you've seen in culture that are going to prevent you from having the absolute healthiest love life that you possibly can in 2026.
And by the way, real quick, before we go into the clip, if you're in a season where you're actually trying to figure out Christian dating, we actually put something together for you that's going to help you a lot. It's called the Unlock Your Dream Relationship Workbook. And honestly, it's super simple, very practical. We love that word here. Practical guide that's going to help you get clarity in your love life and help you figure out what you want, but also what God is saying. And then really, what red flags should you watch out for? And it's so interesting because we made it as inexpensive as possible. How much is this?
It's really less than a Starbucks coffee, if we're being honest, which is $5. It's only $5. So you could literally change the trajectory of your dating life for less than a coffee.
Absolutely. So if you're listening to this right now and you're like, man, I could really use some direction going into next year, or maybe you're just smart and you said, I know that the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again. You don't want to step into the next year like that. You're like, you know what? 2025 or just any year of my life, I have not truly invested in any area in my love life.
Truly, honestly.
Here's your chance. And guess what? You ain't even really investing. $5, you're not investing. We made it as inexpensive. We try to take away every excuse to help you step into 2026 with the right dating mindset. So the link's in the description if you want to check that out. Go ahead. Let's get into this video. I'm not going to come on a definitive side of God does not tell you who your spouse is, or God does tell you your spouse is. And the reason why is because I honestly think it's semantics. Mm-hmm. Because at the end of the day, God knows everything that's going to happen.
Right.
So if he knows everything that's going to happen, does he choose it for me? Or is it just that's what's supposed to happen? I think that's the part where people can get confused. And I think at the end of the day, no matter what, whether you believe God tells you who to choose or you believe you choose, we hope that you are going throughout your whole dating process, checking in with God and the Holy Spirit, saying, hey, is this the person I'm supposed to be dating? Is right now the time I'm supposed to be dating? Like, it should be a continual conversation. So whether you believe he chooses or not, at the end of the day, if you're doing that, you should get it right. Like, you should be able to choose the best person for you. And I think the reason why God choosing your spouse doesn't really make sense to me is a lot of reasons. One, if you believe that, then do you believe that God chooses everything else for you? Or is it just because marriage is such a big deal that he chooses that? Right. But did he choose what shirt you're wearing right now? Like that, just how that's where it gets complicated. Is how in depth do you want to get into God choosing everything? And I do believe that, for example, you were the person that God wanted me to marry. Mm-hmm. But do I feel like God said you must marry Pauline? I guess when I hear choose, like it's like a force. Like you must do this. And I can't say that I ever felt that way. Yeah. Now, I do believe that as I was praying that the Lord said, yes, you can marry Pauline, but it wasn't like you better do this or else.
Right.
And
that's not the God's tone.
And I think that we just need to be careful because people kept bringing up Adam and Eve, and they also brought up Isaac and Rebecca saying, see, God chose them. And I just want to read it because I don't see where it says God chose. And that's the part where when we start putting verses out there and saying God did this, when you actually read it, that's not necessarily how it plays out. It's just dangerous. So let's just read what it says in Genesis 2:22 through 24. And this is the story of Adam and Eve. And this is one of the stories that people say God chose the spouse. And let's just see what it says. Then the Lord God made a woman from the rib, and he brought her to the man. At last the man exclaimed, this one is bone from my bone, flesh from my flesh. She will be called woman because she was taken from me. So let's just back up, because I think I went over it too fast. It says, then the Lord God made a woman from the rib, and he brought her to the man. It didn't say he said, Adam, you need to marry her. It just said he brought her.
Presentation.
And I think that's the thing where somebody could look at that and say, okay, well, if he brought her, obviously he wanted him to marry her. And sure, you could say that, but I'm just saying, be careful saying God said this when I didn't read that. I didn't read that God said this. It just said God brought her to the man, and the man was smart enough to say, yeah, I would like to marry her, absolutely, or I would like to be with her. And I think that is just one example.
I feel like people who feel like see this verse and this story as an example, especially given context of like, hey, these are the only two people on the earth at the time that we knew about. So obviously, or that's recorded. So obviously God wanted him to marry her. And like, I think that that's true. And I of course think that the Lord speaks to us through context all the time. And like, if you're praying for something, and then if you're, just like the Israelites praying for provision and for food, and God gave them manna and quail, it's like, well, isn't that your answer? They answered prayer right there of like what they were looking for. But I think that when we start saying things like, oh, God chose my spouse for me, and God chose Eve for Adam, I think that, like you said, it's semantics. You just have to be really, really like careful about what you are and what's implied and what you understand, and then what's actually being said. Like there's a difference between those. I think that you can say, oh wow, like, yeah, the Lord answered Adam's prayer. He said, oh, at last. Like, he was waiting for her. He was excited for her. And I think that is true 100%. And you should feel that way if you're a man, when the Lord reveals to you who brings you a woman that you could marry, and that you want to marry, and that hopefully God presents her to you. But I think that it gets kind of icky and weird, especially if you take it out of a cultural, like an American dating culture, and we start talking about like arranged marriages and like things where people don't have free will in it. And I even think in a most healthy arranged marriages, so I'm correcting myself here, like those the kids or the children that are involved that are getting married, because they're usually arranged by their parents, they have free will. It's just a presentation of like, hey, Tim, I think you should marry Pauline. Like, you should consider her. And like, oh, okay, yeah, like, she's cool. Are we interested in her? Not like, you must marry her or we're going to disown you from the family. Like, that's not usually how it goes. And like, and I think about myself as a mom now. If I think about, okay, if I'm going to pick out clothes for my kids, there's a difference between me saying, put this on, or even more so, I'm putting it on you. You don't get a choice if you're getting dressed right now or not. Like, I'm making the choice, I'm doing it, I'm making it happen. Versus, hey, you get dressed yourself, here are your clothes, put your clothes on. Or, hey, here are 5 different shirts you could wear today. I don't care if you wear the red one or the blue one, just pick one, you gotta wear a shirt, right? I feel like that's more of the type of heart that God has towards us. And a lot of that is depending on maturity, right? For our baby who's 15 months old, not asking him what he wants to wear. He doesn't have the capacity to choose. I'm going to put his pants on and his shirt on and change his diaper for him. Now, our 4-year-old, he gets dressed by himself. I tell him, hey, Joshua, it's time to get dressed. A lot of times he'll get dressed on his own. I don't even have to ask him. He'll go in his drawer, pick out the clean clothes, put them on his body, get dressed, and come downstairs. I don't even really care what he wears, because everything in his drawer are clothes that we've picked out, that we've washed, that we know are seasonally appropriate for him. If they're not seasonally appropriate, they're not in the drawer. They go away somewhere else where he can't access them. But that's because we trust him more than we trust our baby.
Yeah, another verse that I don't know if people said it to you recently, but that I've heard people say is in Hosea, when God told Hosea to marry a prostitute.
Yes.
But he didn't say go marry this prostitute. He just said a.
Yeah.
He gave him a choice to choose who he wanted. Now, he told him, you need to do this as far as you need to get married, but he didn't say, hey, you go marry this person. And I think, again, that's where people get caught up and they're not reading the full thing and actually reading it exactly for what it says. And I'll just read it. When the Lord first began speaking to Hosea, this is Hosea 1, 2 through 3. When the Lord first began speaking to Hosea, he said to him, go and marry a prostitute, which is just a whole nother conversation, so that some of her children will be conceived in prostitution. So I just think, again, we need to be, he didn't say marry this person, he said A. That's just another example.
Yeah.
And the other one that everybody kept bringing up. Another thing is, if God does choose who our spouse is, why doesn't every story in the Bible that talks about somebody getting married, why doesn't it revolve around God telling this person, hey, you marry them? Why are only people given 2 or 3 examples? There should be the whole Bible should be this. If that's what God is saying to us, is I'm choosing who you want to marry. And again, it can be semantics, because do I think that Pauline is the person that God wanted me to marry? Yes. But again, I never felt like God said you must marry Pauline. It was an evaluation. It was mentors and people saying, yes, I believe you guys would be a good fit. It was prayer. And then we led to that situation. But let's just read. It's going to be a little long. I'm going to try to shorten it a little bit. But if you want to read on your own time, the story of Isaac and Rebekah getting married, Genesis 24, just read the whole chapter. We're going to focus on about 2 through 26 and then 62 through 67, those being the verses of Genesis 24. And I'm not going to read all of it, but just stick with me, because I think it's important for people to, 1, hear the word of God, but 2, make sure they're actually reading exactly what it says. So the context is Abraham is talking to his servant. Abraham is Isaac's father. And he's like, look, don't let Isaac marry any of these women around here because they ratchet. I don't like them. So he tells the servant, go back to where I'm from and find a wife. Find a wife. Not find this. He didn't say go find Rebekah. Abraham didn't know who God wanted Isaac to marry. Adam didn't know who Isaac would choose. He just said, hey, go here. And the servant decided to go and chose a specific way. Let's get into it. Go instead to my homeland, it's Abraham, to my relatives, and find a wife there for my son Isaac. The servant asked, but what if I can't find a young woman who's willing to travel so far from home? Should I take Isaac there? Abraham said, hey, please do not ever take him there. He said, the Lord God of heaven, who took me from my father's house and my native land, solemnly promised to give this land to my descendants. He will send an angel ahead of you, and he will see to it that you will find a wife there for my son. Now let's pause, because I can see people saying, oh, there it goes right there. There it goes right there. God is saying, Abraham's saying that God is going to tell you exactly who Isaac should marry. And sure, let's just go along with that for the sake of this. It goes on to say, if she's unwilling to come back with you, then you are free of this oath from mine, but under no circumstances should you take my son there. So the servant travels there. He takes a lot of different gifts to bring to whoever he finds. And when he gets there, he says a prayer. And he's like, Lord, I need help, because how am I supposed to find a woman? I'm in a place I ain't never been before.
Right.
I don't even see any women around right now. And he says, oh, Lord, God of my master Abraham, please give me success today and show unfailing love to my master Abraham. See, I'm standing here beside this spring, and the young women of the town are coming to draw water. This is my request. I will ask one of them, please give me a drink from your jug. If she says yes, have a drink, and I'll water your camels too. Let her be the one you have selected as Isaac's wife. This is how I will know that you've shown unfailing love to my master. So that's really interesting, because somebody could look at this like he playing a game of chance.
Right.
Some of y'all have done this before when you driving and you're like, all right, Lord, if I run this green, if I drive and it's a green light every stop, then I know you want me to do X. And it's like, oh, I don't know if that is how that situation should go. But here, that did work out, where the servant was like, hey, this is what I'm going to do. Now, let's go on to see what happens after that. Before he had finished praying, he saw a young woman named Rebecca coming out of the town with a water, and she, long story short, went on to give him a drink, and she gave his camels a drink. So the servant watched her, and he was like, yo, I think this might be it. And he asked her, after she did all that, whose daughter are you? He ended up giving her a bunch of gifts, and she said, oh, I'm the daughter of Bethuel, and my grandparents are Nahor. And she was like, and the servant was like, oh my gosh, like the Lord led me exactly to where Abraham's family is from. And he felt like that was favored. Now, I'm going to skip to where Rebecca meets Isaac, because there's a lot more. And again, read it on your own if you want, Genesis 24. But the interesting thing is, even if you believe all of that I just read is God saying, choosing Rebecca for Isaac, let's just read to what happens when Isaac actually meets Rebecca. Because at the end of the day, the servant could do all that, but if Isaac chose not to marry them,
right, then they would have
or God never told Isaac specifically, you need to marry her, how can you say that God chose Rebecca for Isaac? That's the thing that I don't get.
Right.
And it says, meanwhile, Isaac was home, and when they returned in the evening, Isaac was walking and meditating. When Rebecca looked up and saw Isaac, she quickly dismounted from her camel. She said, who is that man walking through the fields to meet us? She was talking to the servant who just brought her from her hometown. And he said, that is my master. So Rebecca covered her face with her veil. Then the servant told Isaac everything he had done. And Isaac brought her, being Rebecca, into his mother's tent, and she became his wife. Now, you could look at verse 66 where it says, then the servant told Isaac everything he had done, and say, see, that right there is when God said, this is who you should marry. But that's not what it said. It just said the servant told Isaac everything that had been done.
Right.
And then Isaac chose to bring Rebecca into the tent. So I wanted to read that because, again, if you're saying God specifically in these stories said you must marry this person, just show me where it says God told Isaac to do it. That's the only thing I want to stress, is we got to be really careful saying God definitely said this when the Bible is not actually saying that specifically. Now, again, semantics, right?
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, God set this up perfectly. Have you ever been in a situation in your life where you're praying and you're believing God to do something, and it just seems like when it is God's will, it just, everything flows into place. This happens, then this happens, and it all makes sense. And that's what happens here. Mm-hmm. Everything makes sense because clearly it was God's will for Isaac and Rebecca to get married. But at the same time, we don't see anywhere in here where God specifically told Isaac, you better marry.
Right. And I think one of the things I love about this story is like it's a perfect depiction of when you're dating and when you're trying to find a godly spouse, how much community is involved. So not only is Abraham really the one who sparks this entire situation and story, but his trusted servant is involved as well. So there's really two layers of people who know Isaac well, who love him, who have seen him growing up, that know what type of woman will be good for him, that are involved and even meet her before well, I don't know for a fact that Abraham met her, but he was involved and coached his servant up, like, this is the type of girl you need to be looking for my son. And I love that, because even if God did tell Isaac to marry Rebecca, specifically like her name, there were so many other more people involved in the process before she ever met Isaac, before Isaac even had the opportunity to say yes, and I want to marry her. Like, she had already been vetted. And I think that is so beautiful that the Lord wrote the story that way. This is the beauty of meeting people at church. This is the beauty of, dating mutual friends and people who, have been around your people and that are known by people that you know. Whether it's directly or indirectly of like, oh, that's so-and-so's cousin, or yeah, I used to work with them and they're really a really good person, and, things like that. You want, like, dating online is great when it's great, but I think the best words we've heard is like people who have met online or like reconnected online, but they went to high school together and then they fell off and then they're reconnected and now they're married, and like stories like that where it's like, hey, and we know actually a handful of couples in that situation, because there's that kind of, what is it called, a connection circle, or 6 points, what's it called?
I don't know what
I don't remember what it's called. 6 degrees of separation, something like that. But yeah, I wanted to highlight also, because I know some of you guys are probably like, see, pointing at this verse, the verse 12 that you read, babe, that says, let her be the one that you have selected as Isaac's wife. And I think that this still backs up the point that we shared earlier of like, God gives you options. For going back to that analogy of like, as a parent, you have already chosen a wardrobe of clothes that are seasonally appropriate, that fit your kid, and you don't care, it doesn't really matter if they wear a red shirt or blue shirt. They just gotta wear a shirt. It's like not gonna really matter. And sometimes as Christians we really obsess over God, what's your will, God, what's your will, God, what's your will. And I think it's a good thing, of course, to want God's will, but the Bible does talk about the difference between God's good, pleasing, and perfect will, and a lot of that I really feel and believe is determined by our actions. Because if that were not true, why would we need grace? If that were not true, why would we need Jesus? Like, if everyone was just a robot and God selected for you where you were going to work, who your spouse was going to be, the names of your kids, what house you were going to buy, what's the point of living? Like, this to me all just goes back to free will. And we obviously wouldn't have sin if God chose all these things for us. And if he doesn't choose hell for us, or he doesn't choose heaven for us, our eternity, like, why would he, that's more important than anything we do on this earth, why would he choose our spouse? And I think that sometimes we just over spiritualize marriage selection so much. And like, is it one of the most important relationships? Absolutely. Like, and there is an element of, being spirit led into that, and that should not be played with, and that should be taken seriously and intentionally. But I also think that, like, God also cares about and is involved with the type of job that you have, the house that you live in. But guess who else is involved in that? You are. And the Bible says that we are co-heirs with Christ. So I don't believe that God is interested in being a dictator. I don't think that he's interested in telling us what to do. In the Bible, I heard someone say once that Jesus asked more questions than anything else. Like, when people would ask him a question, a lot of times he's asking them questions back. Not because it's kind of like a therapy style type of conversation where it's like, Jesus could tell us the answer to things, and sometimes he does in the scripture. Sometimes he just, blatantly does give us answers for things. But I think a lot of times he's challenging us. He wants us to change the way that we think. It's not always about, God, who's my spouse? God, do you want me to marry Tim? Yes or no? Sometimes the Lord is like, do you want to marry Tim? And it's like, well, yeah, I do. Okay, tell me why. Well, he's a great man of God. He's a heart of a servant. He's very respectful. He's funny. He's tall. He's cute, all these things. And it's like, God's like, okay, cool. Would you want to have kids that are exactly like him? Would you want him to raise your kids? Do you trust him? Asking me these questions. I remember when I was thinking about dating you, and I talked to our pastor about it, and she had asked me, I was like, yeah, this is the situation. Like, I think we're interested in each other. And she was like, okay. Do you think he can lead you? And I was like, yeah, I think he can. And I was really kind of struck by that question she asked me, because I was really expecting her to tell me what to do. I was expecting her to tell me, like, yes, this is a good idea because of X, Y, and Z reason, what I've seen about him and what I know about him. Or I thought she was going to say, no, I don't think it's a good idea because of XYZ reason. Because I had a conversation with her previously about somebody else that I had brought to her, and she was like, no. And she was straight up with me like, I think there's more for you. And she was right.
We hope this was helpful. Could it be that God is so good at being God that whoever he presents to you, he knows that you will like, and in that case, he chose them for you? But if you said yes, then you chose them too. So again, semantics is complicated. At the end of the day, take everything you're doing in your love life to the Lord in prayer, saying, Lord, is this my next step? So we hope that video was super valuable to you. We know that some of you in 2025 made some great choices in your love life, but we know some of y'all made some bad choices.
And that's okay. Call us crazy, but we honestly believe that 2026 can be your healthiest year in your dating life if you continue to pursue God and intentional dating advice like this video.
Thanks for watching this video.
To get more Christian relationship advice, subscribe to our channel.
And make sure you check out our other videos as well.